It's been exactly half a year now since I quit my job and started my full-time game dev journey. I'm happy with the progress so far, and I laid a lot of the groundwork. But Loki has become impatient. Loki, do you want to be part of the game as well? Alright, okay. Hi everyone, I'm Volker and I'm developing the cozy farming game Kohlrabi Starship that lets you explore different planets and turn your home desert into a thriving ecosystem. This month I added pets, cats. Watch how I went from this to this. First, of course, I needed some artwork. Pets would of course be animated, so I needed art for the 4 different directions a cat could face. And for each I needed different animation frames, being idle, walking, sitting, sleeping, eating, being happy and being angry. And since I want to allow breeding of animals as well, I needed all of this not just for the adult animal, but also for the baby version. Creating all the animations in Unity can take quite some time. Since the animations would be the same for the adult pet and baby pet and all the different pets I will create in the future, it would be quite a tedious work to redo all of it again and again. It is only the sprites that are different after all. But Unity, fortunately, has a tool in this case: sprite libraries and sprite resolvers for the animation. In a sprite library, we can define what sprites we use for which animation, and then use those to create the animation instead of using the sprites directly. And then we only need to create a new sprite library for each new animal, and we can reuse the animations and animator. Next, I wanted to allow pets of all different kinds of colors. I always loved the slime breeding you could do in Stardew Valley. Though I never managed it myself, you can breed slimes of all kinds of colors there and even get white slimes. And I wanted to allow the same for the pets in Kohlrabi Starship. But it doesn't make sense to just manually create these different colored sprites. That would be way too much work and would result in a limited color palette anyway. Instead, I wanted a shader to handle that. So, first of all, for that I crafted my cat sprites very carefully. I chose 3 different hues that could be exchanged. One for the fur, one for the paws and one for the eyes. I have a base layer with these flat hues, where I make sure even along the boundaries of colors there's no pixels with mixed colors, it's just flat hues. And on top of that I have line art and shadows. These are simple black of different transparencies such that they do not change the hue. And then I have a few other colors in the sprites, but I make sure these are different from the ones that can be exchanged. Alright, and with this preparation I clicked myself a shader that exchanges these 3 colors. I don't use simple color replacement nodes, since however I choose their parameters, I'd either lose the range of shadows for a hue and replace it with one flat color, or I'm left with tinted shadows. It's just not doing what I need. For each color, I first mask the chosen color, using the HSV color space, because there I can detect it solely based on its hue. I have a threshold to allow slight deviations from the hue, and can also feather the selection. Another feature I built in is that I can clamp the output color. I always want the outlines to be visible, so I never want to allow completely black or too dark colors. I then use the input, remove all color from it, such that I'm left with only the shadows. I can also tint the shadows if I want a reddish or bluish outlines. And then I use a screen blend mode to add the color back in. There's no shader node for a screen blend node, but I can simply put in the equivalent math myself. And that's the TLDR of the shader, and it allows me to have so many different beautiful cats. The difference to other shaders I saw on the internet is that it can be used for any kind of sprite with any kind of input use, as long as they are created in the way I described. The only limitation is that the number of colors that can be exchanged is fixed. There's only one tiny problem that I haven't found the solution for yet, and that is that MIP mapping destroys my perfect hue boundaries because it mixes them at borders when downsampling. I can minimize the effect though when I choose the right thresholds and feathering, but a border between colors is often still visible. I'm thinking of solving this with doing manual MIP mapping, but I don't know, that sounds like a lot of work, and for now it's good enough. I was thinking about making a longer video about how this shader works and making it available for download. Let me know if you would be interested. When breeding animals, each of the 3 main colors get independently and randomly mixed. It could happen that we get the color of the dad or the color of the mom, or a mix somewhere in between. Additionally, there will be a slight random color aberration, so over time you could breed your perfectly colored cat. I spent a week of vacation on Norway as well to relax and to catch some fish. And what are the chances there were so many lupines? Their first plant I put in the game, and I hadn't even seen them in person until now. What a truly happy coincidence. Back at home, my next goal was to allow the pets to walk around, both randomly, following you, and walking to targets like food or their bed. In the last video I talked a lot about AI-generated art, and some of you asked what I think of AI-generated code. In general, I don't find ChatGPT too useful for generating code, but this was the perfect opportunity to try it out anyway, because A-star pathfinding is a well-known kind of standalone algorithm, and ChatGPT did actually really well in this case. I just had to change a few things to make it work with my own tile grid and what I had in mind. So maybe my skepticism was partly misplaced, and it can be a great tool in specific cases. The resulting code will create different maps depending on animal size, and it will mark grid spaces as walkable or unwalkable. Then at runtime it finds a path to the goal tile. There are still a few things I want to improve on, but for now it does its job well enough, and the cats can reliably go on journeys to their destination. Speaking of journeys, if you want to support mine and the development of the game, you can wishlist on Steam. It helps so much with visibility at launch, and you get notified once it gets released. So, now that the basics were out of the way, I needed to decide how the player can interact with the animals. The first core mechanic I wanted was for the player to collect animals. Basically, when you explore, sometimes you will come across an animal in the wild. So I needed a mechanic for bringing these animals onto your starship that felt intuitive and didn't need too much text or dialogue choices. I decided that you can feed animals their favorite food and they will start following you. You can then bring them onto the spaceship. If you assign them an empty animal bed, the next day you will be notified that they want to stay with you on the spaceship. Quite simple. But it also meant I had to implement dialogue choices for feeding and a system for animals following you that works for more than just one animal and that allows you to dismiss any animal in the queue. Animals also refuse food that they don't like. And I needed a notification system that triggers at the start of a new day, and animal beds that are assigned to one animal only. And I also needed to include animals in a save file. Since wild animals spawn randomly, only tamed animals need to be saved. And since each such animal has a bed, the bed actually acts like a saving system for the animals. Each morning, the animals will start the day still sleeping in the bed. So yeah, there was a lot of work involved with this, even though it sounded very simple in the beginning. Alright, the second mechanic I wanted was a system to befriend animals, so that they slowly like you more. For that, I use internal happiness points that you can gain and lose. Petting a cat and feeding it every day gains you points. Ignoring it loses you happiness points. These points are visible through 10 different heart levels and different dialogue for each level. If a pet reaches the bottom of unhappiness, it will leave the starship to find happiness elsewhere. And since this is a cozy game, no animals ever die. Like, no. The third mechanic is to give animals names. Whenever a wild animal joins you on the starship or a new baby is born, you can give it a name. In the future, I really want to implement my own name generator as well. But since that is really not essential at the moment, I'll have to postpone that for later. With this done, the last thing I added was audio. Until now, I didn't really add too many sound effects into the game because I knew I would have to invest some time into a global audio manager first. Almost any game lets you set the volume of the music and sound effects. For that, I need an audio manager. Fortunately, it turned out to be very simple, and now we have cats that meow, purr, and can be angry. I also finally added music and some smaller sound effects, for example, when collecting items. At the moment I use Splice.com for all my sound effects, but my plan is to replace some of the sounds by my own. But that is also planned for much later. Last but not least, I have some fantastic news. There is now a Discord server for Korabi Starship. You can find the link in the description. I'll post smaller development updates and polls there. And if you want to do early bug testing, you can also let me know there. Or you can just hang out and share your own game development experiences. I'm so excited to see people join the Discord server. And secondly, there's also now a website with a newsletter feature. If you'd rather just want to be notified about major updates by email, like when the demo releases, you can sign up there. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for future updates and toss a like for your welcome. Bye-bye. I'm recording this video after a day of building IKEA furniture, and I've been riding my bike, and Google said it's gonna be 45 minutes. It's taken me 1 hour and a half and I'm so tired. Everything hurts. Seriously.